Rick, this is like your Hall of Fame. I can't read it. No light. You had too much light. All right. I might have to just wing this. Ricky didn't call me to tell me I was speaking. I heard it from my wife and my daughter who was doing the video. And so I called him about a week ago and I go, do I really have to give a speech? What am I going to talk about? And he goes, no, you'll do fine, you'll do fine. So I hope I do fine. I would first like to thank Jim and the Hall of Fame committee. They've done a wonderful thing here recognizing our program, and it is a program. I would like to thank my daughter, Danielle, for doing a really good job on the video. And Coach Morris, I know where you live because I came up and did Ricky's video, so I will be returning all those tapes to you. But I think Nam will take them. Nam's really interested. I would also have to thank my wife, Nancy, who, they say happy wife, happy life. Well, we do everything together, so I don't know how happy we are, but if you've seen us at the head table at a tournament, we're bickering about something, and it's usually wrestling.
But I'm right. Shush, Ricky.
You can sleep on the other end of the couch. She did the video, my daughter. She was doing basically 5 decades in 12 minutes, and it was, I thought, really a great job. And Nam is going to put it up on the Hatter website, I'm sure, for everyone to see and splice out their pictures. God, I wish I could see this. Hey, that's better glasses. There you go. That's great, thank you. We are very proud of our wrestling family and the many young athletes that are part of our successful program. We are a family and we are a wrestling community, just like what Coach Tilby was talking about with Coach Peel. We are competitors, but we work with each other because we are a cult sport. Anybody that's wrestled, you become friends with them right away. I've seen over the years my son and his friends at a tournament, and they're making friends with kids that they just wrestled, either won or lost to. In Leo Lopes' case, he wouldn't talk to him if he lost to him, but and since that only happened like 3 or 4 times, he talked to a lot of people. So but we're very proud of the family and the parents that are involved. That they make the program. Coach Shook has said it many, many times. My parents helped make my program, our program. We always refer to it as our program. And, we're very proud of the accomplishments of these young men and ladies. We've had a few ladies that have wrestled for us and done very well. But I got to be honest, when Kevin Jack is wrestling in the NCAAs 2 years ago, and I'm watching it on my video at work, I practically passed out because I forgot to breathe. It's the same thing when my son was wrestling. You start and you forget to breathe. And I know I was talking to Lucas tonight when I got here because his son did a wonderful job up at, down in North Carolina there at the Super 32. And I said, you made it through the weekend, or I was feeling for him. And I saw Jacob, and I congratulated Jacob, and he's not happy because he took 4th, which is a great attitude, but a wonderful accomplishment. So, I'm very proud of the young men that are wrestling in college. Kevin, Paolo Freitas, and Johnny Garcia, who are out at Notre Dame College in Ohio. And more recently, we sent 3 wrestlers out, and I hope they continue to wrestle out in North Oklahoma A&M College. Jeremy Fields, the New England champ from last year, Justin Peterson, and Joey Hulse. Wonderful young men, and I hope they continue. I hope I haven't forgotten anybody.
Anthony Kota.
Anthony Cote, I'm getting to a little while. Our success on the mat has many contributors, and I'd like to recognize a few of the people. I want to start at the top. We have support from people like Dan Donovan, the principal up at Danbury High School. Chip Salvestrini, who was the AD. He left, and thank God he came back. He's the best AD in the country as far as I'm concerned. Coach Morris, who, we'll keep going over this, Coach. You know, you are the architect, but now the article that came out told us you're our grandfather, so it's even better. He put our program on the map. John Nemec was also a large part of that, which you've heard tonight. And he has a New England title. And a few years ago, the wrestlers, we had an outstanding class, and the second part of that outstanding class is going into the high school this year, that we had them put on the back of a sweatshirt, New England champs by 2018 or bust. And I think you're going to have your title by then, Rick, the New England. We need our parents and Jamie Asconi to keep them on the grade. Jamie's in the school with them, and we need him to stay eligible and keep working hard to be very talented. They're a very talented group of wrestlers. I want to appreciate Coach Shook. Years ago, we had a young man, Gino Frank, who left town. He went back to Pennsylvania, and we weren't sure if we were going to have a middle school coach, so Coach Shook came down to football practice one night. I was helping Coach Stone, and I said, well, if you can't find anybody, I'll try and do something. And as Coach Shook walked away, Dennis Stone turns to me and he says, you realize he stopped looking. So I did just like Coach Morris and Coach Nemec. I got out tapes and I looked at tapes and I tried to put together a lesson plan and just tried to be positive. And then Coach Shook calls me up and he says, I got you Tola. And I go, what's that? He goes, Tola's going to help you run practices and he'll be the person for you to lean on. And it's like, oh, well, that's great. So, and I knew Mark because he had helped out with a young man, Ricardo, who was in our household. So Mark and I got together and we ran some practices, and he helped me tremendously. Man, he was a lifeline for me. But unfortunately, Mark only stayed 1 year, and like Mark said, we brought in Chris Bray, who's the Newtown head coach, and he came in and we learned what to do, and Matt Tricarico beat up Coach Bray, and then he beat up almost everybody else that came in, even college wrestlers, and they said, this is the strongest 8th grader I've ever met. And we go, yeah, well, wait till he's a senior. That was a lot of fun. I want to give a shout out especially to Kevin Jack, who flew up from North Carolina today, and he's going back tomorrow. We are proud of Kevin for his accomplishments, but we're also proud of what a nice young man he is. His parents have done a great job. Also really proud of a lot of the coaches in college. I mean, we have Humphrey Swift here tonight, who coaches up at Johnson & Wales. We have Timmy Ferrer, who coaches at Roger Williams. Tyler Howe wasn't able to continue to coach this year because of a job change, but he was coaching at WPI. Am I missing anybody?
Your son?
Oh yeah, my son. I better not forget him. He spent 6 hours in the car coming down from Mass with poor Anthony Cote, who was a former Danbury wrestler, the captain on his wrestling team. Very proud of Anthony. Helped coach me in the middle school, and then he was really liking it, and he said to me, you know, I'd like to talk to Frankie about maybe going to wrestle up in college there. Well, yeah, I guess so. You were my replacement. But, so hopefully he's getting an education degree, and he'll come back and still be my replacement. The accomplishments on the mat are tremendous, what Ricky has accomplished. And we've done it as a program, getting kids prepared but keeping kids on the grade, keeping them focused, keeping them focused on wrestling and not girls and nonsense and iPhones. It's a lot of work, and he is tremendous at it, and he stays in touch with the coaches, the kids that he coached that are coaches in college, that are wrestling in college. It's amazing the time he spends towards that, and I want to thank him and his daughters for putting up with it. I know he will too, I hope, because he forgets on some of these things sometimes. But I want to recognize them. They do a wonderful job, and they've been part of it. And I want to just give one little anecdotal, probably the wrong word, but whatever. I'm a wrestling coach. There was a streak that went on for a long time, and a lot of these wrestlers had the attitude, not on our watch. We're not going to lose on our watch, whether it was the FCIs, the double Ls, the opens, or the consecutive streak that we had in beating teams from the state of Connecticut. And there was an evening, my son was actually refereeing for us on a middle school match and kept coming in over the phone. I don't know if it was an iPhone at the time. My wife kept telling us, New Milford's ahead, New Milford's ahead. And we kept hearing it, And then finally we heard we lost to New Milford. And the world didn't end that night, although a lot of people thought it did. But the next day, it was around Christmas time, so a lot of former wrestlers were home. And the next day, 7 open champs showed up into the room to help educate the wrestlers of that team. One of them was Anthony Hayes wearing New Milford shorts, which is a typical Danbury tradition of just rubbing it in their face. And they were really upset that the streak had come to an end. And, that streak had started when Leo Lopes and Tony Nunes won their match up at NFA. Was it against Newington? Newington was the first one, other than the tie with Norwalk. And that was... Huh?
That was Namath.
Yeah, well, that's when the streak started. But, every good streak comes to an end, but tradition and pride is what got us back onto the right path. And, the wrestlers today are just as talented and just as hardworking. There's a few other people I want to thank. Like I said, Coach Tola was a huge help for me when he came back. But Brian Hayes and Ron Howe were huge helps in the elementary division. Then Brian allowed me to retire and go watch my son wrestle in college. Or it was high school maybe. It was high school. I watched him in high school, and Brian took over for a while, and then Jeff Jennings came in and he took over. And there was never a drop off in the program. And then after, when my son was in his senior year of college, Jeff had asked me to come back and help him as an assistant to transition to being the head coach. And I was very fortunate to have people like Mike Pangle, who came out and helped us, and a former wrestler from the 80s, I think. A lot of fun. We had a lot of fun. And more recently, Dennis Stone Sr. came back, who was my son's first travel coach when he was 8 years old.
With
so
Mom.
Dennis doesn't learn either. So. I want to recognize also some of the elementary coaches we have now. We have Ryan Peterson, who's back from the Marines. Thank you for your service, Ryan. Luke Chavez and Will Jack are helping this year. Eddie Garcia has helped in the past. Phil Young has helped in the past, and he's back this year. On the middle school coaching staff, we're going to have Dean Smith back again.
Yes.
And Jarek LaPlante, who graduated last year, is going to be with us. Almost done here. We have had a wonderful support group from the Danbury Youth Wrestling Organization, DIWA, which is currently headed by Mike Iaquinto, our president, and who is also our middle school coaching staff as well. We have Cara DeFonce and Tina Pote, our elementary league commissioners. It used to be Andy Levitt was our commissioner years ago. We have Meg Burns as our secretary, and my wife Nancy as the treasurer, and we all know he who has the gold, or she, rules, so
Told you I was right.
she's in charge. Andy Levitt was mentioned earlier, and he was inducted into the National Wrestling Hall of Fame as well. His family, he has family members here tonight. I think it was Kimmy, and I saw Ben. I didn't see Susie. Susie's not here, right?
I don't think so.
Well, Susie, one time, just another little funny story, and then I'm pretty much done. We're sitting down watching the FCX, and Andy's talking about, oh, I'd like to get Susie to go to this girl tournament. And I said, well, I can go up with you tomorrow. So we went up to some place in Mass, and Susie did pretty well. Then a couple months later, we're out at Nationals. And a young lady who wrestled for the Olympic bronze medal this year, Elena Perkraskova, was standing next to Susie, and Susie's crying because she can't make weight. And I'm like, fine, keep crying. It's water. You're losing. And poor Janet is coming apart. She's like, oh, this is horrible. Oh, I feel terrible. So this nice young lady grabs her by the hand, starts running her around the mat, and helps her make weight. And Elena, this last year, wrestled in her second Olympics, and she lost in the bronze medal match, but we were dying watching her. But Andy was always a huge supporter. He would go down to Tennessee. They had a Chattanooga duels, and Andy shows up because he had some stamp thing nearby, or so he said. He probably just showed up anyway. And he bought the kids pizza. And finally we got to convince Andy pizza wasn't the best thing for kids making weight. But, the other thing I would like to do is I would like to thank those athletes that have come through our wrestling program that serve in our United States military. And Kyle Rogers is a captain in the Marine Corps. Lieutenant Charlie Costanzo in the Army. Will Mills, United States Marine. Dennis Stone Jr. is the Army National Guard. Jimmy Patton is in the U.S. Air Force. And I hope I haven't missed anybody, but if I have...
Brian Peterson.
Adam Sismore, I'm sorry. Adam, he recently passed away, didn't he?
Yes.
Yes, unfortunately down in Newark, New Jersey. But Adam Sismore, that's right.
No, he's not.
Keith Barry, all right, thanks. Finally, I'd like to thank the police officers of our community that have helped out in our program, Mike Iaquinto and Brian Hayes. Yep. Thank you for listening, and go Hatters. Woo!